Boissinova, sir. Your braised lamb chops with cilantro and a 2 ounce of Cheval Regal Royale Salute. Poured over 3 of the finest chilled butter cubes.
Hi everyone, this is George from Your Local Musician, and this is episode 1 of the Lowdown, where I go in depth with real musicians from around the world to find out what makes them who they are and do what they do. Episode 1 is with Canadian producer, singer, songwriter, rapper, drummer. He's a pretty all-round guy. It's Boissinova. Who is Boissinova? You know, how did you start? Where did you come from? And most importantly, you know, what do you do? Because as we've already spoke already, you are a bit of a mixed bag. You like to do an awful lot. So if you could really sort of define that for me, who are you and what do you do?
I go by Nova. I am a Canadian Kelowna born and raised kid. I'm 23 years old. I originally started music as a jazz drummer in middle school and high school, and doing lots of performances I've played drums for about 13 years now, and I started DJing in university because our campus we had dances, but they were pretty lame, so I wanted to step them up a bit, and so I started DJing in my dorm room, and someone heard that I was DJing and said, hey, could you DJ the dance for Halloween this year? And so I started doing that, and that kind of escalated, and every year it got bigger and bigger, and I came up, Boissinova is my last name, and Boissinova just kind of, I don't know how it kind of came about. It's kind of random.
How is it your last name? Because over the past about a week and a half to 2 weeks that we've been talking, I have been trying really hard to pronounce that. But how is it?
Yeah, so I'll say it slow. It's just Boissinova.
Boissinova.
Yeah, Boissinova.
Boissinova.
Yeah.
Boissinova.
Yeah.
I quite like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Boissinova. So, like, what would be really good, obviously, you kind of touched on it a little bit there, with starting out really through drumming recently. So what really made you sort of transition from the DJ, the drummer, to eventually become sort of a vocalist, really, and a rapper, an MC? I don't really know how you sort of define yourself or whatever, but how did that? Because me, as a musician myself, I didn't start out producing at all. From a very young age, from like when I was 9, I started to rap, but I'm completely British, 100%.
Right.
But I rapped like an American, and that wasn't widely received. I was just like, I could write. I believed that I could write, but it doesn't sound right if a British guy is trying to sound like an American.
Not at first, no.
No, but so eventually for me, I just sort of I just ditched that and realised, okay, maybe I should be behind the scenes because I can't flow.
Well, and if it's not your passion, right? It depends on what gives you that satisfaction. Like some
absolutely.
People, I don't always get the most satisfaction out of engineering my own music. I like performing my own music, but I get satisfaction out of engineering other people's music. But the transition and how I kind of found my voice, I would say. I think I know as early as I can remember, probably when I was about 14 or 15, I would spend summers at Green Bay Bible Camp and just like, going to summer camp, and they encouraged us to keep a journal, like a spiritual journal, and you journal every day. And I used to I was like really in my feelings all the time about girls and all this stuff, and so I used to like think it was cool to write poetry, and so I started writing poetry, and I still have a notebook of all this stuff, and I would like just I was really inspired by Bradley Hathaway, just an artist, or he's kind of a spoken word poet, and he had a book. I can't remember what the book is called, but it's one of his few books, and I started writing a lot of poetry because of him, and that was where my first personal writing started, where I was like, I'm not going to write just because a teacher wants me to hear it. I'm going to write for me, and so I started writing for a long time, and it wasn't like this intense mission to like become this prolific person. I just found myself having these ideas that I really wanted to express and share, so basically I kind of kept writing, and so here's like the segue is that I started writing all this poetry over, and in English class we would study stuff, so that was the reading aspect of it and writing. But I found my voice, I think, when I started DJing in about first year of university, because I had to pick up a mic and be like, yo, this song is coming up next, like, yo, having fun out there, like, and I found a bit of charisma in that. I found that I loved the response from people, and so that's the first time and that's a weird thing to like go on a microphone and start, talking to people and getting a response out of them, and it was weird for me at first, but I found that I really liked that. I always thought like, oh, yo, you can DJ or whatever, but I'll just do the, get people motivated and stuff. And so I started doing that a lot at the DJ shows, and eventually with DJing, I would buy my songs off Beatport.com, and just through studying all the producer stuff, I'm like, wow, there's really it's a whole profession that you can dedicate your life to, creating sounds and producing and all this stuff. And I started to realize pretty quickly that, if you want to, I wanted to put my 12 years of drumming and all this stuff, I'm like, I don't want to waste that, so I should put it into something. And in order to kind of become, a figure and have a network, you basically have to produce. And so I started, I bought Ableton first, and I had a mic, but I didn't even know how to plug it in. Like, I didn't know, I had bought it from Long and McQuaid, but it sat there for about like half a year without me knowing how to plug it in, and it took me probably about 4 months to figure out how to get a keyboard USB into the computer to make a sound in Ableton, like pressing the note and having the sound come out. That took me a very long time, and when it did, and I just found joy every time I learned something new and just kept going. And at first, when I started recording, it was horrible, but it was still, it's still my music and my passion and my ideas, but I just kind of got better. I knew you had to just do it over and over and over again. So yeah, it's a bit of a long answer, but yeah.
No, man, that's exactly sort of a similar-ish sort of story with the way I sort of started as well. But I sort of began, like at 9 years old. 9 years old. It was quite a simple sort of thing where my best mate, who's still my best mate now, it was as simple as this. He came up to me. It wasn't even my decision yet. He came up to me and said, I think I know what I want to do with my life. This is 9 years old, so this is some pretty strange thinking for someone of so young. I want to be a rapper. And I was like, okay, well, the only white rapper that was out then was Eminem, really. So, and it was pretty strange pretty weird for two 9-year-olds to be listening to songs called Kill You and the Real Slim Shady and songs like Kim and things like that. But lucky enough, we didn't grow up to be mass murderers. So we're all right. So obviously with the sort of the mixed sort of process that you have, is the one thing that I really sort of admire you for is you are both the artist and a producer. I always I really, really look up to people that do that now. Obviously, I completely understand ones that just go one sort of certain way, but it takes a certain sort of type of person to sort of take on both of those sort of responsibilities. So like what did you say? Your love of sort of writing lyrics and poetry and that, did that come first, or was it the drumming first? Drumming first.
I would say the production first.
Production came first. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, because not to get into the sob story, but everyone has hardships, and I think beautiful things come from difficult times in life. And when I had I dated my first girlfriend for about a year, and she didn't treat me very well, but I was head over heels and doing anything to get her to really love me and all this stuff. And when I decided it was over and we had this kind of big falling out, I was really crushed, because when I fall for somebody, it's pretty deep. And so we broke up, and then I think about a month later, like, definitely I was depressed, and we went
Now clearly this is my first time doing this. People generally categorise me as some sort of sound engineer, computer wizard geek, when clearly that's not true, because I don't know how to record computer audio. Here's part 2. Part two. Sorry about that, but first time we're bound to have some sort of stuff happen. But yeah, as you were saying.
I'm gonna go. Am I black and white now?
Yes, you are black and white. That's it. That's the mysterious
There we go. I like this. Alright.
Yeah, Brandon. Alright, my colours, your local musician colours are black and white. I like this.
Yes.
So like, as you were talking about obviously like the sort of transition between doing sort of different things and really starting to hone your sort of craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first production thing I tried to figure out was Massive.
Yeah.
And I just spent hours in my hotel room so sad, and just like, I'm gonna do this because I can't do anything else right in my life, and I'm like, I'm gonna try and get this right, and tweaking knobs and all this really confusing stuff, but it was something that couldn't be figured out easily, so I just spent a lot of time tweaking knobs, and I literally watch, and I still do to this day, I just watch tutorials until I can't stay awake anymore, until about 4 or 5 in the morning, and just absorb as much knowledge as I can, because I know it's you can't reach a ceiling with music production. There's no end to it, so you may as well just put as much passion and time into learning it as much as possible, because I think the thing I found out that was nice for me was that I didn't have to know anything and feel like, oh, I figured it out, whereas math, it's like, if you do it correctly, you've done it correctly, and there's closure, and that's the end of the story. But with music, there is no end of the story, so it's always cool to be continually learning. And so I think when I started learning all that production, I took it home with me after the trip, and I was really soul-searching and pretty crushed, and I had a keyboard in my apartment, and started just recording keyboard and a microphone at the same time, and no quantization, click off, and just like playing stuff and just singing, and it didn't sound the greatest, but it sounded like me, and that was like enough to keep me going. So
yeah. So one thing that I instantly appealed to me about your sound is that you obviously I said this the other day, that to me you sound like a younger version of the guy that did I Love College.
Asheroth, definitely, yeah, no, yeah. I would, yeah, for influences, I think that's a big thing to talk about too. I was gonna touch on that, and surprisingly, Eminem is great. Talking about white rappers, because it's obviously going to come up a lot in my career, because I'm a white rapper. I do other things, but Eminem wasn't a huge influence. I really think he's one of the most talented people probably today, and his attitude and just his flow and his timing and ability to create a picture is really cool. But I think probably Asher Roth, I wouldn't say he's one. Yeah, he's definitely. I've spent a decent amount of time listening to him, and the whole "Asleep in the Bread Aisle" album with him, really good. I've listened to it multiple times and loved it. And definitely listen to his new stuff, Retro Hash, and all that. And I would say my favorite rapper would be Mac Miller, who's another white rapper.
Yeah.
Who I really like him because, he's done hip hop, he's done rap, and he's done a little bit of singing here and there. He's not too much of a singer, but he'll do it. But I think the biggest thing for me I love about Mac Miller is that he's done jazz projects that nobody really knows about unless you're a big fan. He's done all this jazz, avant-garde kind of production, but he also stays in the mainstream and does ignorant trap music and stuff, and so it kind of shows you that, you can be white and a rapper, and I don't think that barrier exists as much anymore. I think people might cough their head at the fact that you're a white rapper, obviously, because that's just a catch-22, but I don't think it's as rejected as it used to be, but it's the versatility that I kind of find in my life. Like, I find that I'm a very up and down person. I'm happy sometimes, I'm sad, I'm a mess, and I'm together at the same time,
Yeah.
And I'm not just one flavor, so,
That's good. Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, one project that when we were speaking the other day that I really liked was the song, obviously, Boardwalk. Yeah. Can you break down a little bit, sort of how not just Boardwalk entirely, but the floor plan, the EP and album sort of came together, because that one initially really, really stood out to me. I thought the production was really. It's a great thing to say that, even though that I sort of heard a younger, what was his name again? Arthur? Asher Roth, that's it. Yeah. I'm not a 100% huge fan of his, but but I definitely heard that. But the thing is I could hear the small sort of influences from that, but then you sort of sounded quite far away from it at the same time.
Right.
In respect, sort of creating your own thing, and I could hear the thing that you were sort of going for. So just sort of highlighting the Boardwalk track, could you sort of break down for a minute how that happened?
Okay. Well, this might be a little bit of a long answer. So, okay. So I remember the day I made that track, and that track is definitely one of my personal favorites, just because it's positive, and I think we need positivity in life, in a bigger perspective. And I think, I've had dark times, but when you hit those happy days, it just, it breaks everything apart. So I remember the day I was living in Chilliwack, British Columbia. I'm a BC kid. My parents had moved to Chilliwack from Kelowna, which is a small farm town, nothing to do there. Everything's cheap. I was living on a horse farm, and, I get to do my own thing, and I just kind of finished university and was living at home, and it had just been a sunny summer, and I had been I think this was, I had been sitting in my room and really putting in the hours, late nights, staying up till 5 and looking up tutorials on Logic and all this stuff, and really just in my art, flexing my artist muscle in my own private life, and just really working on my stuff. And I had been waking up and going to the beach and taking my dog for a walk and staying outside, drinking coffee, and it had just been a summer of good times, basically. And I woke up one morning and It all kind of started with a machine sample, which is how I produce a lot of my music, is through machine. I have a Mark II, just a controller, and I find because I'm a drummer, it's easy for me to produce with a beat pad, and some of the sounds in machine are like really inspiring to me. So I was going through the kits and I found this guitar sample, and it was that one that's like and then the one beside it was that
When you say Mark II, do you mean the Akai MP?
The which?
The Akai MPK Mini 2. Is that the one you want about?
I own one of those, but no, I'm talking. It's a machine. I have that.
This is quite a chance. We can link this in the description of the video, and
Yeah.
a bit of money from it.
Definitely. Yeah, I would strongly recommend.
They are great in there.
Anything Akai. Akai is great. Affordable and definitely all you need. No funny business. They're great.
But
And so machine, like the native instruments machine.
Yeah.
And I was using that a lot for my beats, and I found this guitar sample, and it was kind of a chop, so kind of like it had been sampled from a real guitar player, and I built it around that sample, and kind of started with this snare that was like. And basically, I came up with another melody through my Akai. I was playing on my MIDI keyboard, and that part was like do 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 do. And that guitar sample was just popping, so like I just like kept using it. And what else happened? I didn't write the song until a little bit, probably a couple months later into the summer. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, and I kept the instrumental going, and I was looking at a big thing too. I think people really got to remember is where you are in your actual life with how things are going, and also your physical space and what's outside of your window is really going to inspire you, and you can take inspiration directly from what's around you. It's like you just channel the mood of everything into your music, and that's how it really becomes a reality, and that's people look for that consistency in your music, and I think that's why I kind of have whatever I have in terms of a sound, and I'm not just trying to fabricate, rapping about money and drugs and violence and all this stuff, just because that's not around me, personally. Like I definitely think it's around other people, and it sounds right when it comes from them, but it's definitely not a part of my life. It's I have a great family, and my family's hilarious, and we make jokes, and so my music is a bit funny, and I'm not too serious, and I'm just like having fun. But I was looking out the window, and it was a really sunny, windy day, and the trees were blowing like really hard, and it was just such a good day. It just felt like a great day, and I was making this guitar sample, and the guitar sample totally matched, and the stars aligned, and I was kind of just making this beat, and I was thinking about how lately I either had two options. I could either go to the river and just hang out and sip iced coffee, like what should I do today? That kind of wake up in the morning, hopped up out of bed, need some caffeine in my head. Should I chill out by the river, maybe head to Vancouver instead? I got homies by the beach. I got homies in the streets. Either way, my family, like my friends. They just practice what they preach. I love you each. Life's a beach. And y'all know what they say, those who can't do teach. Thinking of, teach, so I was thinking of skipping school. I never was a jock. So I never really skipped school. But I'm gonna grab some L's and hit the boardwalk, something this way. And boardwalk is just kind of a summer. I think I named the beat Boardwalk before. It sounded like, reminded me of being in California or something, like on the pier, and all responsibilities out the window, not thinking about work or anything, and just kind of having a good day. So And then I remember, this story's almost done, but fast forward probably a couple months when I started making Floor Plan with Miles, and he wanted to record me, and it had literally, that recording is probably the first time I've ever rapped on a microphone. I didn't have all this experience going into Floor Plan and doing vocals. I was super shy, but I'm a drummer, so I'll get up and do it, whatever. And basically, like, I was paying $75 an hour to record with Miles, and that's a lot of money coming out of my pocket. So he was like, "Did you write any lyrics for the song you wanted to record?" And I'm like, "No." And so I'm like, "Let me just quickly write something." And I was like, I just started writing all these lyrics for the song, and I kind of just came up with it. I wrote that song probably in 10 minutes, so, because I was in a rush, and then, it all just kind of came together pretty quickly, and I think that's, like, kind of the best songs that, sorry for the loud coffee machines, but,
That's all right.
Yeah, it's the songs that come quickest, and that you just don't think too much, and you're not trying to make a hit, but you feel good inside, and I think that's what kind of sparks my sound. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. So what's next? Like, what are you working on now?
I'm working on a potential project. It's called Poppin'. There's definitely been a couple hints to a new project. It's gonna be another album coming out by me. It's a little bit. It's bigger club tracks, and more of a darker adventure than Floor Plan. I would say Floor Plan to me was a bit of a jazz rap album. Somebody had said it sounded like party rap, and then I later went and made party rap as a mixtape, so you can go check out party rap on iTunes, and that's all produced by me. Everything I make is produced by me, but
That's where the link's gonna go, right there.
yeah, link in the description, check me out. Boissinova on iTunes, Boissinova. It's pronounced Boissinova.
Boissinova.
Yeah, and I'm on Twitter, SoundCloud, and hopefully SoundCloud is going to survive the crisis they're having right now for young artists.
Yeah.
But that's a big thing. That's a whole nother topic.
One thing I will comment on is I think your artwork is great. Like the cover to Party Rap is just like it's just so it's cheeky. That's the only way I could sort of explain it. It's just like I don't know. What is it? You're on a chair. You're on some drawers and like completely surrounding like a yellow background. I just thought that was really good, but yeah, that's great, mate. That's definitely the direction I think you're gonna go. So
I think a lot of my inspiration, I think if I can inspire whoever's listening to this, I don't know who will definitely hear this, but honestly, the inspiration is right in front of you. Like everything you need to say, you don't have to look far. You don't have to come up with some grand scheme. Accept yourself and where you're at, and everyone around you can give you the best inspiration that you can possibly have. And if you look anywhere else, you're not going to find it, usually. I mean, you can, but, I always find that's a bit like writing fiction. It's kind of hard to do, but with party rap and sitting on that chair, I just had planned to do a photo shoot with somebody, and we got to the studio. They had that chair. They had this IKEA desk or living room piece, end table kind of thing, and it had some Louis Vuitton boxes on. Those are the little drawers on the inside of the box. They're like these little kind of trendy boxes, and I knew I wanted to call it party rap. I was thinking about having balloons falling down, but that didn't end up happening. And so we just, I planned a bunch of outfits. We did all these things, and that seemed like the attitude. I didn't care. Party rap was done in about 2-3 months, and it was kind of, you know, fun. Like I wasn't trying to stress out a bit about a big album project and tear my hair out like I did with Floor Plan. And I released Party Rap first because it was more of a mixtape and a quick. I didn't put too much afterthought and all this checking and stressing over it, and that was the fun of Party Rap, was that I'm just gonna get this out and I'm gonna get it done, and it's gonna be really fun and this party rap, you know. And I took that concept from start, like, to finish, and that's how the cover and artwork came out, because I was shrugging. It was like, I don't care, I'll grab this and that'll be fun, that's cool, and, you know, not overthinking too much, like it had to be this amazing, perfect, calculated thing like Floor Plan. Floor Plan, if you kind of think about the concept of Jay-Z's blueprints, I didn't directly take inspiration from that, but I can relate it to that, because Floor Plan was definitely like a way to it was my kind of blueprint for how I was going to become a recording artist, and it was very planned out, and just the whole concept was, I thought of that before. I'm very big on albums and doing a whole body of work rather than singles. I don't think a ton of singles make sense on their own unless they're a collaborative feature with another artist. So Floor Plan for me was definitely me trying to get Party Rap was me trying to get a bunch of feature vocalists, like all my friends that I just know from university. Can you hear me with all this music going on?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This guy's playing some weird music. But yeah, Floor Plan, I mic'd up a grand piano and did all this strenuous recording artwork, and I did it all myself too. Like I set up pencil head AKG mics on this Yamaha 7-foot piano in my parents' house that they were about to sell, and it was on the first floor of my parents' house, and it was like a $2.5 million house, and they were letting go of it, but they hadn't sold it yet, but they had already moved to Chilliwack, and nobody was living in it, and so I drove from Chilliwack with all my recording gear to Kelowna by myself in order to record in this big open foyer with like 20-foot high ceilings, and all of it was wood, and I just knew it would sound great, and so I called it Floor Plan because, I don't know, that just sounded right for where I was and what was around me, and it was like ambiguous enough to not really be saying anything but be saying a lot at the same time. Like Floor Plan, like, I'm not really trying to like stack a bunch of money, but I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to do this and figure out exploring myself as an artist, developing and where I'm at in life, basically. And the cool thing about Floor Plan I really found was that I recorded my friend playing trumpet and grand piano, and I also recorded Miles Hill, who was my mentor at the time, playing bass on the first track, The Vibe. And that song is really cool because I'm playing drums on that track. There's real trumpet that I hand recorded, nobody helped me, and hand recorded the piano like a real live group. I think that's the best music, is when you know, it's cool to start the beat with samples. I think that's just the best way to do it for me nowadays, and I think it's really cool for anybody else to just, you know, low risk, just start up in the computer, see what you got, and then if it really feels like a mood and you think you can take it somewhere, call up your buddy, buy him an iced coffee, you know, ask if you can help him in some way, but record with him and have a great time just recording and, you know, conversing over what the song could be, basically. And that's kind of what Floor Plan was in a lot of senses. So yeah, if you want to ask any other questions, yeah, I'm sure you got lots.
Similar sort of thing with us, but we don't go for, what did you say, was it iced tea? Iced coffee. We don't go for iced coffee. We go for a cheeky beer and a dirty kebab or something like that. Yeah, that's the way we rock over this side of the pond, mate.
There you go.
So like,
some people do iced coffees.
Some people do iced coffees. Yeah, that's what the mistress down there. Mistress, not the mistress,
Fucking hell.
not the mistress.
Dickhead.
Careful.
I'll leave this half finished.
She'll leave it half finished. She is speaking to the internet, and
We can edit that out.
we can edit that out. But I'm not even going to edit the fact that we had a big bit of interference. But you know, one take shot, mate. One take shot.
Yeah.
So like the way I sort of want to end this, because obviously this is my first time sort of reaching out and talking to young guys like yourself, who I personally believe have got like a lot of talent to sort of take it somewhere. And so as sort of I don't really like this word, because I think it sort of puts certain people into a certain funnel that I don't think they should be in. They're sort of amateur / professional. I think those two words are they're very strangely defined. But in terms of like music production tips and tricks, what would you say is like your top 5 that you keep on sort of coming back to?
Okay, yeah, I got a good one. I got a really good one. Okay, so on that track, Boardwalk, this is a reason why that track pops. Okay, first of all, I mean, the Machine sample, and Machine is great. Native Instruments, I started DJing with Tractor, and they're very expensive, and they're always trying to get your money, and that's true, and that's fine, and all the well, capitalism is alive and thriving, but they also have really inspiring sounds, which is really cool. Aside from starting with that guitar sample, which I found thanks to them, and I definitely don't want to take credit for everything, but I found that sample, and I was really inspired by it, and so that was the basis, that was the foundation for that song. But I took it even further and put that extra kind of percussion on it.
Mm-hmm.
The drumming is what really makes that song snap, is that like all that really crazy percussion. I did a lot of the bass line percussion just on my own, but I added, talking about adding layers, I finish all my beats in Logic, so I take the stems, or sometimes the 2-track, but I think sounds better with the stems. It just means you got more control, and you're going to be able to actually do a real mix when it comes time to doing things in pan and volume automation and all that. So it gives you more control, definitely. There's a whole debate on 2-track versus stemming things out. But here's my big tip. If you're using Logic Pro, there's a thing called Logic Drummer. And so you can go, when you're clicking add a VST or audio track or whatever, you can click the drummer tab, and you can choose what style of drummer, hip hop, R&B, songwriter, whatever you want to choose. And I just set it on the snare, so it was only adding snare elements, and all the snare rolls that were just really tight fills and stuff. That came from drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like the drums that it was giving me, and so I opened the drawer in the mixer and took a different snare sample, and filled it in place of what Logic Drummer had defaulted me, and so, a lot of the really funky percussion going on top of it, it's kind of really cool using Logic Drummer, because one, every time it's just so cool. I can't really, you just gotta use it, because it feels like you're collaborating with another drummer, and that's what music is about, is having 2 ears on one, and the more ears the better, and that kind of thing. So using Logic Drummer is a good way to make it sound not so much like it's just you recording, right? And for me, I'm always recording by myself and stuff, so it's really good. Another tip too, if you can't get your friend to drag his butt out of bed and come over to your studio and lay down some tracks for you, which is sometimes the case, use real instruments. So going on to Native Instruments again, I use Contact Session Horns Pro. or session horns, whatever bundle you got, and use the trumpet so that and I used the keyboard and didn't quantize it, and I went and basically just all that trumpet stuff, because I had been listening to an artist, and you should definitely, if you're a producer, look up John Bellion, Jon, last name Bellion. Okay. He's on iTunes, and he's one of my biggest kind of drum programmer. He's a songwriter, does it all himself. Huge inspiration. Huge. You can hear the similarities, I mean, wherever they are in my music. But he uses a ton of trumpets, and listening to John Mayer a lot, he incorporates a lot of trumpets. But I just love trumpets. In this song, those weren't real trumpets. On the rest of the album, they were. But in Boardwalk, I used sampled trumpets from Contact, and so I used those to make the melody better. And I think one big thing is making melody, whatever sounds catchy to you. You know, it's about the drums snapping at first. Always for me, I always start with my drums, and that's just how I think. But actually, I don't have a formula. Sometimes it's, you know, I'm up and down. So definitely. So yeah, using Logic Drummer to spice up the percussion and make it just sound like that. If you need that extra push on your drums to make them not sound so boring, use that. And don't necessarily use their default drums, but take. You can right click on the region. This is so nerdy, but you can right click on the drummer region, because it has its own MIDI language. You can right click on it, the little blob of drum hits that it gives you. Right click, convert to MIDI, and it'll drag open a new track. It'll mute the top track, and now you have this MIDI track below it, which you can go into Ultrabeat, which is Logic's drum sampler. And you should Google it on how to swap out the samples, and because Ultrabeat is kind of this archaic drum sampler, but it really works. So you can right click on something and load a new sample. That's a really good tip that I can help with. So yeah.
That's good. Anyway, right. I think we can end it there. But thank you for. I know it's been a bit of a long haul with the arrangement, but I think we can end it there now. I'll link up to everything that you've just sort of mentioned in the description when the video goes live, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, definitely. And if anybody's looking for obviously beats, but if anybody needs someone to mix their projects, definitely get at me. I'm on Twitter or Facebook or SoundCloud, wherever you want to find me. It's Boissinova, Boissinova, and I do like really affordable mixing, and I'll take my time on your project. If you need help just spicing up your track, I find that I have really good ideas and a really good ear for a lot of genres, so I'm definitely looking to be a freelance producer and artist. So I'm just starting out, but if my work is any example of what I can do, send your stuff my way. I'd love to hear it and collaborate with anybody on anything, adding drums or vocal features or mixing or anything like that. So,
definitely, man. Definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway,
thanks so much.
Nice talking to you. We'll talk soon.
Take it easy. Later.
Alright guys, that was my sit down with Canadian hip hop producer Boissinova. I think he's a really wholesome, all around guy, and I really think he deserves a shot. He's got something really special. So everything we talked about is in the links in the description. Go check him out.
More of this wine.
Signing off.
I don't usually drink red, but this isn't bad.
So, dude.
It's not good either.
So,
Yeah,
dude.